Hello, guys. Welcome, everyone. This is Maria speaking. I'm the showrunner, and I'm here to share a few LinkedIn live pointers to get you started. Please take this time to share the live stream with your network and to invite your friends and colleagues to this event. We'll be recording this discussion, and we will include the link in our summary post on LinkedIn, as well as in our One Burning question group. Feel free to follow me and all of our moderators here today and panelists, and be sure to check out and follow others in the room. We love hearing from our audience, and we invite you to join the conversation by sharing your thoughts and questions in the comment section down below. While we might not be able to bring you to the screen, we'll highlight and address as many of your contributions as possible. If we run short on time and I cannot highlight every comment, we will make sure to address them afterward. It is now my pleasure to turn the floor over to our moderator, Christine Von Raesfeld, who will introduce our topic of discussion and our steering panel here.
Good morning and afternoon, wherever you may be. For those new to our discussion, my name is Christine Von Raesfeld, a patient advocate and moderator for our session. I'm excited to welcome you all back to our clinical trials One Burning Question, and it's great to have you here as we continue the conversation. At our last OBQ, we discussed the significant challenges posed by NIH funding cuts on clinical trials, diving into how these reductions impact the pace of innovation, patient outcomes, and research advancements. Today, we're taking that discussion one step further. We'll explore how emerging technologies, particularly AI, can not only mitigate these challenges, but also open up new opportunities for more efficient, cost-effective, and accessible clinical trials. From AI-powered trial design and real-time data monitoring to virtual trials and enhanced patient recruitment, these innovations have the potential to reshape the future of clinical trials. For those that don't know yet, our host, Consuli. Broadly, Consuli is a public benefit company with a mission to enable individuals to participate in the data economy. Experts suggest our individual health data is worth $20,000 per year. Consuli helps people choose who gets access to and how their personal information is used, and if and when desired to get them paid for their data, and can make medicine better. Consuli does this by operating a marketplace for members where Consuli becomes their agent. Members receive smart-matched, individualized offers from Consuli for opportunities, including to participate in clinical trials and data trials. There is no cost for individuals to join the Consuli movement. Consuli offers sponsors of data and clinical trials a unique opportunity to find and reach individual members. You can learn more at consuli.net. And sponsors can fill out the Contact Us form to indicate their interest in exploring a relationship. Maria, can you throw that link up there? So I'm delighted now to introduce our panel. Each of our panel members brings a unique expertise to discuss this discussion. Taya Romero, Alliance and Relationship Management Consultant, focusing on the power of partnerships in driving innovation. Jen is not here, so we're going to skip over Jen. But Jackie Blem is the president at Cardiff Clinical Consulting, Inc., and she'll share real-world success stories and strategies. And Michelle Batista, an IRB professional and patient advocate. Together, we'll uncover actionable strategies for integrating these technologies to not only adapt funding cuts, but to build a stronger, more innovative future for our clinical trials. This brings us to our one burning question for today. How can AI and emerging technologies offset the impact of funding cuts? To get this conversation started, we've got two special guests joining us. Dr. Pradipta Ghosh, a physician scientist, professor of medicine and cellular and molecular medicine, and founding director of UC San Diego Institute for Network Medicine. Pradipta, do you want to introduce yourself really quick, and then we'll go on to our next guest?
Thank you. So I'm trained biochemist, cell biologist, and internal medicine is my specialty, with gastroenterology as my subspecialty. But why am I here today? I do not run clinical trials, but I'll soon get to you. as to how I envision AI can impact clinical trial in these days. Thank you. Looking forward.
And our next guest is Tatyana. Tatyana, and I just lost where my notes went on your introduction, so I am going to let you introduce yourself. Tatyana, you want to go ahead?
First of all, thank you for having me here. And Tatyana Kanzaveli, founder and CEO of Open Health Network, AI first company that in healthcare that was started a while back. My background is computer science, so I've been doing AI when it was super hot, when no one wanted to talk AI, all the flavors of AI, and uh, start applying AI in healthcare when I was diagnosed with cancer, and that's how I started a company. I think everything about healthcare will be impacted by AI and Gen AI, and my company have been working with clinical research people from UCSF all the way to HHS and everything in between, in multiple disease areas, from sleep disorders, chronic pain, oncology, IBD, and so on. So we kind of have been in the space for a while. So hopefully, look forward to discussions.
And I like having both of your perspectives here because it gives us a little of a different view in addition to all of our panel members here. So let's just get into this. So my first question for both of you is, given the financial constraints that we are facing in clinical trials today, what are some of the most practical technology-driven solutions that you've seen or that you've implemented that can make trials more effective and cost efficient? So Pradipta, I'll start with you.
Thank you. So, it can, I believe that AI can really impact almost every facet of clinical trial, starting from target discovery through trial design, real world evidence integration, even perhaps running virtual trial before actually taking it to a real clinical trial. And even as the trial is ongoing, maybe adaptive learning models that can quickly see interim results and change the protocols dynamically, reducing wasted efforts and inefficient approaches. Finally, when the data is available from the clinical trial, having automated data processing could cut off some of the excessive costs that's associated with personnel and everything else. And really, where I am perhaps more suited to talk about and what we are currently doing at the Institute for Network Medicine, I would like to focus on the first three aspects, which really starts with AI-powered target identification, arguably the most important step of a clinical trial. And yet, if you think about it, currently, the AI/ML solutions for that particular step is really a lot of what we already do, which is natural language processing and read the literature. We haven't budged from reading the literature and coming up with it. We are just doing more of it, automated. So one of those to fix that specific issue, what we are trying to accomplish at the Institute for Network Medicine is use foundational principles that govern gene regulatory networks, use them and strap it with other foundational principles that are mathematical languages. It's a language of computer science like Boolean algebra, to really identify high-value targets from multi-omics data sets. And our goal is really to increase both speed and precision, unlike anything we are currently doing by just reading more literature. And once they are identified, the targets that is, we then change the second most important, arguably most important step before moving into patients in the clinic, which is preclinical models. We are making precision engineered 3D human models to then validate and figure out whether the drug would or would not pass in a diverse setting in the clinic where each patient is very heterogeneous. Besides that, the network that we build is used also for trial design. We can run a virtual trial in patients exposed to drug, not exposed to drug, chronic disease, acute first diagnosis, take any segment of the patient specific clinical phenotype, run the trial on it, know who should be our target patients for that particular drug. And real world evidence integration is the third aspect that we're trying to really address with these approaches, which is leverage existing omics data sets from current clinical trials that have failed or succeeded, use that to drive the initial network building and interpretation. So with that, I will stop and see if there are questions.
I want to actually, before we take any questions, I want to get Tatyana's take on this. And keeping in mind for all of our audience, again, that our question is, how can AI and emerging technologies offset the impact of funding cuts? And Tatyana, we just heard Pradipta speak on these. Is there anything you can add or anything that you think that you'd like to highlight in what she said as well? You're coming from a very different perspective.
Yes, thank you. I think everything was said by Professor Ghosh is very relevant. And I can tell you that I just came back from South by Southwest, where I moderated the panel on using AI, Gen AI in clinical research. And I was holding a bottle of a pill that is right now in phase 2+ clinical trial. Everything has been designed, including, target moleculars, and everything was done by AI. So the CEO of In Silico Medicine, Alex Javarenkov, was on my panel, and that basically cuts from discovery all the way to production of the drug from many years and gazillion of expenses to much shorter time frame. We still have a lot of regulations, and I think that's the aspect that we have to focus on. We have all those technologies that bring tons of power, speed, decrease of costs. However, our regulations are not built to work with all those new technologies. So despite the fact that you can push certain developments super fast, and I'm excited with what's coming next with all those AI-driven research. We can look at really personalized precision treatments, but so we can save lives, first of all, of lots of mouses or monkeys, whoever's used. This we can definitely speed up that process. Another aspect that I do want to highlight, in addition to what's been said, that with AI, we're also generating synthetic data that can help us to create representative data of population that otherwise is not represented in existing data sets. Extremely powerful, so we can do all of that. The one more additional point, what's been said, and the other panelist on my panel at South by Southwest was VP of AI Gen AI for Mass General, and they published papers on how they used AI Gen AI to identify and recruit with much higher, like it was incomparable in terms of numbers, recruit patients for clinical trials. Published papers, I can send you links after that. So as you can see across the whole chain, from looking at targets to design clinical trials, all the way to manufacturing drugs, recruiting patients, and everything else, AI and Gen AI and those technologies can definitely provide a huge impact.
I thank you for that. As a patient myself, I think I have a few concerns around the use of synthetic data, and those conversations I think still need to be had. And for anyone that is listening, we do have a show which is Data Dignity, which we also host here, talking about some of those topics. But I appreciate both of your insights. when we're talking about these solutions that you've all mentioned, Tatyana, you mentioned that there's some papers, and hopefully we can get those links and share those in our comments so others can really join in. Are there any other things that you've seen floating out there that you think could have huge potential or impact on these things? And we had Michael Young, which I'm sure all of our audience are familiar with. Michael could not make it with us, but he was really wondering how the AI can help offset when we're having layoffs and loss of personnel and loss of the funding as well, if there's any avenues of AI that could really help there. And I'll let whoever wants to speak first. I see Pradipta starting to.
Yeah, I probably have a very short response, and then Tatyana, please elaborate. One of the things in face of the funding constraint, I think I should emphasize is really leveraging historical data sets and real world evidence to minimize the need of extensive preliminary data would really go a long way to reduce trial costs. But more than that, what that also allows us to do is perhaps have really well represented diversity in the data sets so that we are preventing biases that could skew the trial outcomes. Especially, we saw this, that we developed a certain vaccine, tested and tried it in clinical trials that was really not representative of the groups who finally received it. And that is something that we could avoid by having some of the historical data sets being leveraged. Second is that predicting patient responses, such kind of predictive analytics, really could go a long way, especially even optimizing the dosing strategies. Imagine one arm of the clinical trial could be abolished by simply having a better trial design with a dose that we think is going to have the most impact. Same goes for really refining the inclusion-exclusion criteria by doing more of in silico clinical trials that is AI-driven. So it's a virtual clinical trial, not that won't cost as much. And so that I would say that those are few things that do come in mind, and having real-time AI-powered, really real-time analyses that can perhaps refine the original trial design based on incoming data. That could be another possible solution. And with that, I will hand over to Tatyana if you have.
I'm like totally agreeing with all the points you've mentioned. I also think it's kind of handshakes with what you said. I think there will be a huge role of digital twin. So data driven representation of humans and organs and everything else, where again, the whole purpose of that will be to build predictive models that you can test on those digital twins before it goes into. We wouldn't be able to escape human, trials, but everything else that we can do to minimize potential negative results and improve likelihood of drug working the way it's supposed to. The other thing that we don't talk about much, I think, is we talk a lot about data. However, we still have data silos. So pretty much everything or extremely valuable detailed data sets are contained within organizations. So is there a way to combine those data sets in the context of clinical trials? I think it's also will be invaluable to look at failed or unsuccessful trials and use all of that to improve the process, and that basically will address cost efficiencies on how to run those trials. And lastly is repurposing of drugs. So I think AI can be extremely helpful, and we've seen quite a few developments in that space as well. then, because it will shorten time of the drug to help people with certain diseases, because those drugs went through everything, right? So they have been approved. Can AI tools help us to use it for different conditions?
I love all of those points that you brought up, especially about the data silos. And I think also learning from the mistakes that we've made in the past is extremely important. Before I ask my next question, I saw that Jennifer Bonfrisco has joined us. So Jennifer is a clinical trial consultant and keynote speaker. She provides insights into practical application of technology into the trial process. So Jen and the rest of our moderators will be getting to you in just a minute. But I do have one more question for our guest speakers. So we talked about all of these different solutions and possibilities that people could use, looking at how we kind of offset some of these costs. And building on those solutions, I think we can shift our focus to what action organizations can take today to try to integrate some of these technologies effectively. So if you had to recommend one key step that organizations could take immediately to integrate these technologies into underfunded trials, what would it be and why? And this is just from your advice perspective and what you're thinking.
I'll take a crack at it first. I'm at UC San Diego, and at UC San Diego, innovation really thrives at the intersection of disciplines. And couldn't have been better to have a geography where one single street, Gilman Drive, separates the entire School of Engineering from the School of Medicine. This is not how most campuses are. What this does is it allows really health sciences, School of Medicine trainees, because our best hope is to get them young, get them trained, get them ready to speak different languages and talk to each other. And leading something like Institute for Network Medicine taught me one thing: try communicating between disciplines where they don't even understand each other's language. And that seems to me as one of the biggest walls that needs to be broken down, with training the personnel in AI literacy, and that is critical to maintaining a really long-term adoption without going high-cost investments. Second, I think organizations could do a better job to prioritize modular, interoperable AI platforms that would integrate with the current system. So we don't need to reinvent what's already there, but just integrate better. And I personally am a big time champion of open source AI tools, sharing data. People like me really, really need data. And data being available, thank God for journals that mandated, the funding bodies who mandated. Without sharing data, it's impossible to do data science, right? So those would be a few thoughts at the top of my mind, but other things, Tatyana, handing over to you.
I think, I talk about AI, Gen AI everywhere, and I think number one step is to educate. Like my life, 100% depends on all those tools, every aspect of my life, right? Because I've been using Gen AI from day one, right? So if people use it, and not just hear about it, then they don't have a fear. So a lot of people who express concerns are the ones who actually never use those tools. So I think it's important for us to, it's in healthcare and beyond, to educate as fast as we can every single person on what those technologies can do, cannot do, what to watch for, how to use them, and make them use this. Again, this is not optional anymore. People who will not know how to use those technologies in whatever they do in any step of the process, in this case, clinical research, clinical trials, will be obsolete before they blink their eyes. Like, that's the speed of innovations that's happening right now, disruptive innovation. I would say that I strongly believe that if you will take those powerful technologies and apply to outdated business processes, you're not harvesting the whole power of it. So it's not just incremental process improvement that will make a difference and move the needle. I strongly believe that you have to rethink and question everything the way things have been done before. With that mindset, you will be able to start building blocks that will help you to build new infrastructure that can sustain clinical trials in the future. This is the hardest thing. I'm just, based on what I'm seeing, these things are happening. And lastly, I think this is a controversial point of view, but I have to state it. Because I've been working with a lot of, health systems for many years. I think it's time where we stop competing on something that's not necessarily worth competing for. So basically, I see a lot of redundant things that people are working on, because they want to say it's us who build it at XYZ, rather than use something else that have been developed elsewhere. And this is, I think, a problem that we somehow need to solve, and open to discussions.
And I will say I agree with you completely as a patient myself and seeing research in different silos, but nobody really coming to that conclusion because we're not working together. It's really disappointing. And so I see that if we could combine these, if we could have these silos kind of broken down, we'd get to these innovations a lot more quickly. I want to first thank you both for your insights and perspectives. It's clear from this discussion that while the challenges posed by funding cuts are significant, the opportunities that are presented by AI and other emerging technologies are equally compelling. So from optimizing trial design and patient recruitment to navigating the regulatory landscape, we've touched on many of these ideas. So I want to open up the floor right now for a deeper discussion and dive further into some of these ideas and really explore how we can turn these strategies into actionable solutions. So my panelists, I want each of you you have this opportunity to really feel free to build on any of the points that you've heard or share any other additional thoughts. Or if you have questions for Pradipta or Tatyana, we would love for you to share that. So Taya, I'm going to go to you first. And I know that your ears must have perked up in some of the parts about collaborating and relationships. So I'll let you go first.
Sure. I think when we look at all of the options that are out there now, there's so many AI models to choose from, so many different companies providing similar tools. However, cost can be a huge burden for sites or for using these tools into the clinical research area. So are you seeing opportunities for collaboration where companies could come together to work on creating a tool together so that they're then sharing the costs of development? But also, are there opportunities to provide things at much lower cost for sites so that they can, especially the independent sites that maybe don't have budgets to utilize these types of tools, but we know that this is going to be kind of their step into the clinical world. So those are kind of my ideas at this moment.
Any thoughts on that, Pradipta, Tatyana?
I know, I've been talking to some of the startups who have built pretty innovative solutions for sites, and they've got funding for that and everything else, and they had to change their focus area because they said it was extremely difficult for a variety of different reasons to get to those sites and make them use those tools. And they're low cost, highly valuable solutions. And that helped with, recruitment and management reporting and all of that. This, based on my understanding, again, I'm a technologist, so I listen to business issues and translate into technological solutions. And based on what I know, on a lot of sites, it's like retyping, rekeying, spreadsheets, and everything in between. I have no doubt that there are low cost, easy to deploy solutions that can help with those things. We just need to create a body where we all collaborate, get representatives from different sites, and really understand what are the reasons of them not using anything, and how we, from technology point of view, can adapt things that we have access to and knowledge on how to, develop solutions for different audiences, how we can make it adaptive. It could be that, the solutions are out there, they're too generic, so they can't be easily adapted to certain requirements of certain sites. So more than happy to facilitate discussions, look at the technologies, and come up with something that can be deployed because it's important.
And Pradipta, any thoughts there?
My training is not quite aligned to be speaking as an expert,
No worries.
but I can speak like a common man or woman where, well, Google and all these search engine companies, they made search engine free, right? Where I am the product. What I do, when I do, everything goes as data. I wonder if the future of these AI, ML, innovative solutions in clinical trial or any aspects of data science could adopt something like that, where data is gold. Make the product free, but get the data. Maybe that is something, but I'm just talking off the top of my head. I have no expertise really.
I have a say here. So fundamentally, I feel that if my data is used for commercial purposes and someone is making money out of my data, I should have something out of it. So that's number one, right? So I think it's important to kind of understand patients' view. If you are going to use patients' data to make tons of money, do you need to have explicit consent from them?
Yes, somewhat like what we all sign. We all
Yeah.
sign it. We just don't read the fine print, but we immediately sign when using Facebook, LinkedIn, or whatever it is we use.
Yeah.
And maybe one way to look at it is perhaps all of this will lead to better clinical trials, safer drugs, cheaper and more efficacious, and maybe that's the back door of getting something in return. But I understand your point that handling patient data is just another whole level of game than monitoring what I do in the morning and then when I go to work and things that Google or all these things monitor.
But also, like, if you look at the site management, and again, I'm not an expert as you are, I'm on the technology side, but I talk to people, and I think, there is kind of, the whole process is so inefficient. Like, you need to find a site, you need to potentially reward physician, then they have to find those patients. There is another system that they have to maintain to adhere to protocol, and then they have feed data from EHR. So the whole process, to me, when I was listening, because and I come from PricewaterhouseCoopers when I did build methodologies on how to look at the processes, business process, the engineering, applying technology to improve business processes. I was listening, I was like, wow, like lots of opportunities to streamline all those things. You see what I mean? So we have to pretty much go back to the drawing board, probably create some kind of ontology of different sites and properties and attributes, and then see how we can improve processes and use technologies or whatever to make them better. Because that will address the TS like questions on the site management.
So I'm going to say, as a patient, I completely agree with you, Tatyana, on these issues. And again, we do have a data dignity conversation that takes place where I do think some of these issues can be tackled. From my perspective, I think it goes down to the agency of that data, right? Allowing individuals to have access and then using AI tools to really let these patients, use an AI bot or or something to search out what's available to use that data in, but also having some type of licensing agreement or something as we're moving forward in that. But I don't want to go too much on that because it's way off our topic. So, so Jen, you want to bring us back to our question around our topic here?
Sure. Thank you, guys. I got to tell you, I have a page full of notes, but first of all, I think we've talked about a lot of important things. A program that I worked on for the last 2 years has been for African sleeping sickness for a drug, and I'd love to talk to you guys offline. It's for a drug that's been used in Africa for over 100 years. And, we are having a hard time, or, the company eventually closed down, but getting the data from that. So these types of examples are the exact examples of where we can utilize real world evidence data to change and to get drugs to the market, to learn things. If anyone doesn't know, if they've not heard of Dave Feigenbaum from Every Cure, they must look him up because his book is all about that. He had a rare disease and he has started a nonprofit for this very reason. And he talks a lot about the concept of data silos and failed studies. And what's interesting, and Dave is a physician at University of Penn. I live near Philadelphia, so I happen to know his story very well. But part of the issue is he talks a lot about, look, we all know it in pharma. We do studies. They don't work. We put them away. We never look at them again. We often don't even write a CSR. We write a very, very minor little abbreviated CSR. Nobody knows anything about what happened. That is exactly the kind of information that the world needs to know about. But again, companies are businesses. We're not doing it out of the kindness of our heart. We might be, but we also have to, keep the lights on. So there is a plethora of data that just sits in these black holes that never get known. So what Dave's had started a nonprofit, hoping that can maybe allow companies to share more of this information. So it's interesting, and I feel like it's a huge opportunity, but as we know, the Mercks and the smaller companies, they don't want to share that. It's confidential. And I wish we can get out of that because it could honestly change things for everybody. So I think there's a lot to talk about that. Another thing that someone mentioned at the beginning that I think is fascinating is safety and efficacy. We all know about these DSMBs. Like I just set up a DSMB for the study I'm working on. It's a safety, a safety board. We're not going to look at it till we're 3/4 of the way through the study. Why not? Like, I think we would love to look at it quicker. DSMBs are usually, for anyone that doesn't know, they're set up by the experts in the world. They're very expensive. We have to set up these meetings with people. We pay them a lot of money to meet with us. Why not have a better way to get real-time look at what's going on our data? Everyone would love that. So I think that's fascinating, and I think all companies would want it. be able to do that better, because the truth is we're manually doing it. Like I'm working on an oncology study and we're digging into the data every day and pouring through it and looking at it. Why not have a better way to, look at trends? Because we really are manually looking at listings and tables and listings and figures. So I think there's a ton of opportunity. And the final thing I want to say in terms of real life running trials, AI for recruitment. We have to figure out a way to do it. I mean, you want to talk about saving money for studies. We would save hundreds of millions of dollars if we could expedite recruitment. And we've been talking about it for 20 years, but we're just not there. And the reality is, it's like we said, we need to get the sites to be able to utilize it. And these sites are already overwhelmed. They're either big or small institutions. And we haven't figured it out. And I think that would change everything. There's also little ways we can use AI. I mean, to be honest, I still get a weekly screening and enrollment log. It's a Word document that all my sites have to fill out a Word document and email it every week. So, I mean, that's the truth, that there's a lot we could do better. But the one that jumps out at me is AI for recruitment. I just wish we could find a way to do that better. And I think it would get drugs, completely change our development timelines and cost. So a lot there. Great talks. I love this group, and I'm very interested in everything you guys had to say today.
And thank you, Jennifer. I want to really quick, before we go on, tell anyone that is listening in or maybe listening in on LinkedIn, if you type in the comments there, we will see those even though we are not on LinkedIn. So if you have any, go ahead and throw them out. But I want to move over them because, Jennifer, I loved your insights. And I think there wasn't really a question in there for our group, unless Tatyana, with your technology view, if you and Pradipta maybe want to touch on the recruitment part of it, because that is a big problem for our industry.
I want to touch on a couple of points. Jen, beautiful feedback. And number one, on failed trials that kind of locked somewhere. And you mentioned like everything is commercial, right? Why would we spend time on that if we can focus on new molecular, new drug? I can tell you that we developed a Gen AI kind of tool that did few things. First, it vectorized every single clinical trial document from clinicaltrial.gov. Then we built similarity engines, some other things. And the bottom line is we built a tool that can look at all the clinical trial protocols and help you to build new ones based on similar type of things that have been done in the past. Now, if you forget about that use case and take the technology that we've built and deployed, right, and say, can we just dump in all the protocols of trials that have failed? We have an engine that can go massage, find similar ones, try and make sense out of it. Now, how we can convince other companies to contribute to that dump of failed trials, but the engine, we have it, we release it actually for free, right? Meaning that technology is out there. It's more about how we do that. Now, the second comment I'll make real quick is on recruitment side. So I'll send you papers that have been published by Mass General Brigham on how they deployed AI tool that drastically increased recruitment based on HR data, much more accurate, and the numbers just fascinating. Maybe, and I can get you in touch with Sandy Aronson that was on my panel, and he can give you more information on the tool they've built on the recruitment side.
Thank you. And I want to get to our last two co-mods. We kind of got it deep into our discussion. But Jackie, you wanna weigh in, and then Michelle will come over to you.
Absolutely. I think my favorite, I'm going to carry this quote with me, is from Dr. Ghosh, that, intersection of disciplines. As a mom of two kids, that one in applied math and the other in data science, they just rang out to me, because when I remember going to tour the colleges with them and seeing the clubs that bring together, the data science and the math and the biology to collaborate on projects, and so that's our youth is where it's going to be. So I think as we were talking about this, so Jennifer, I totally agree with you that we can really streamline recruitment, and that is a place, but it's a tough problem to tackle. I do have clinical sites that are using AI for running through their EMR systems to find patients, but they've generated a huge list of patients. But listen, there's still a human factor there. Those patients haven't come into the clinic yet. They, in this particular case, it's oncology. They haven't progressed, so it really hasn't turned up patients for us. So it's really it's still a very, very tough thing to implement, and we're still at it. But there are companies that specialize in it. And then another thought I had was just really that we're coming into a time of extreme pressure. Our industry in particular is very tough to shift our paradigm about how we do things. On the industry side, we're trying to protect our intellectual property, so we're reluctant to just give that out to everybody, even if it is a failed program. But now we're coming under a lot of pressure. So I think my feeling is that as a first step, there are these consortiums and genomic libraries that are out there, and that's probably where we can start to do some of the retrospective studies and the modeling that Dr. Ghosh was talking about. And that I think is where we can gain some momentum in incorporating AI into clinical trials. I think on a day-to-day basis, as far as we can use AI to help us save time, and that does save money, and helps with some of the resourcing that I'm hearing clinical sites are getting having a difficult time with resourcing now. So if we can streamline contracting, budgeting, recruiting, that's a place where we can take some of the pressure off of how difficult it is to do clinical trials nowadays.
And Michelle, do you want to hop in there? Sorry, we're getting to you right at the end.
That's okay, because I'm no expert on AI, but this has been a great discussion, and I just see the opportunity for 10 or 12 more discussions off of this this little topic that we had. But just some of the notes that I took from being a patient advocate and a ethical review board and member for over 30 years on that end, just a patient for a little over a year, having gone through chemotherapy and oncology care this past year. I think knowledge is power, and I think it can help us do more and do better. I think as a clinical research group, we need to do more, do better. We work really slowly in changing the way we do things and the way we see things, and it's not just big pharma, it's academia as well. I can recall being at a conference several years prior to even becoming a patient, where there was a academic professor talking about a protocol and some cutting edge discoveries she made regarding her protocol design. And I asked, what are you doing to share this information? And she said, well, in 12 to 18 months, I'll publish. And I was like, no, you have to share this now, So I think we need to get away from the mindset. And I really think AI is the solution to help us to be able to share more sooner. And then from a patient, from an ethical review board standpoint, we just need to make sure we are getting consent when using patient data. I think now as a patient, I really welcome sharing my data, and I wish I would be asked more to share my data, and I would think other patients would agree with me. But I'm screaming for someone to ask me for my help, and it's just nobody's asked, and I can't find anywhere to share. So the resources need to be better, I think. And I love the discussion about expediting recruitment, and how AI can help that. I think that'll help so many companies save money. It's I think, number one pain point in pharma and biotechs and running clinical trials is the lack of recruitment, the lack of patients for the protocols out there. And I just think AI could really help us in that.
And I do as well, and I'm looking forward to the future discussions that we have on this. We have about 10 minutes to wrap up, and I first want to thank all of you for being here. But I want to kind of do a really quick round robin here on just one closing statement that you'd like to leave our audience with as we really think about this topic of and the potential of AI and emerging technology. So I'll come to my speakers last, and I'll start out. Taya, you want to go? We'll go in the order that we started with. So Taya, you want to give us your closing thoughts?
Sure. I think that there are so many amazing opportunities here for AI to really take the lead on some of these patient problems we're facing, including retention. And we were talking a little bit before the show on patient retention. I thought Tatyana had some really great feedback on that we didn't get to touch on in this talk. But I see so much potential, and just hoping that there's enough collaboration and enough alliance there that we can share the technologies and kind of share the cost across the board.
Jen?
Yeah, I also second that. I would suggest to people, and I've been doing it with the small company that I've joined at. A lot of these ideas are brilliant, and they can certainly change everything. But what I would suggest is do what you can, even if it's one little, the elephant that you're going to eat, one bite at a time. If you can get your company to incorporate one or two small things, they'll start to understand how it can help. So even something as small as a Word document that we're tracking on 4 different places. Sometimes I feel like I've had a couple big wins this week, and they were simple as that. So the quicker people realize that this technology is not going to hurt us, it's only going to make our lives better, the more we'll be able to do greater things.
Jackie?
Yeah, I'm with Taya and Jennifer. I mean, it's time to dip our toe and see what we can do to push things along. With an eye to, I mean, it's not always just easy to implement things. So as I'm finding with using AI for recruitment, it's not been a magic wand. So but we still need to chip at it one bite at a time. I say that all the time to my team. So that made me laugh. But again, I think we're coming to a time of great pressure. We're going to, much like when we went into COVID, this is going to force us to innovate and force us to implement these things. And so we will get things moving along and implement AI to streamline clinical trials. But it's not easy.
We're seeing that, right? Michelle, your thoughts?
Just that we need to do more. We need to do better. I think AI shouldn't be feared. It should be embraced, albeit cautiously, like Jackie said. But it will allow us as individuals even to do more and to be more productive in our jobs. And yeah, I think we have a lot to learn, and I'm really excited about every opportunity I get to learn more about AI and how it's being used.
And I'm going to go to Pradipta and then you, Tatyana, and then I'm going to bring on Elizabeth Dreischer, who's the host of our conversation, to kind of close out with some of her thoughts. So Pradipta, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I'll just go back to the part where my core expertise lies. One of the reasons as an MD I stepped away from clinical medicine is because the gap between what I was doing at the bench and the clinic was really, really still very far. And that comes from a very simple aspect, null hypothesis. There is no grant I'll ever get where I say A has nothing to do with B, give me the funding, I'll just prove it doesn't have anything to do with it. Or drug X is not going to treat disease Y. That null hypothesis doesn't exist in biology and medicine, and yet it is the foundational aspect of physical sciences. So by embracing, really integrating the fields that rigorously apply null hypothesis, the objectivity, with fields that do not, we can only gain and make drug discovery more and clinical trials more precise. And precision will drive down cost because then we won't have failures, each of which is $2.5 billion. So the future, I am extremely excited to just wait and see what's in the next decade, because it's not going to be biology and medicine. It's going to be engineered intelligence. I think that's where we're headed. But thank you for the opportunity.
Tatyana?
I think this is like fascinating discussions, and I've heard from you guys being on the front line of different aspects within clinical trials, and I would say that from technology, it's evolving so fast, but technology-wise, we do have technologies that can be of help. My whole life was on intersection of technology and business processes across many different industries. And the key question is how we can get people like myself in the room with people like you, so we jointly, it never will be solved by only clinicians or by only technologists, right? So we need to have players in one room and brainstorm on how to make it work, because I can design something absolutely stunningly beautiful, completely not applicable and will not fit within workflow, whatever. So let's get together and figure it out, do it step by step. But I think that's the bottleneck that always existed for years in any industry and in any business process. The good thing we all acknowledge that we need to speed up improvements in clinical trials. So let's make it happen. Thank you.
And Elizabeth, closing thoughts from you as you've listened in?
First, I just want to thank everyone. This has been very stimulating. I have 2 pages of notes that I furiously took that I'm always amazed at. And talk about interdiscipline, right? We've got an interdisciplinary panel here that I think we've exposited many opportunities. And I'll double click on what Michelle said, that most patients are never asked to participate, whether that be data trial or clinical trial, like 1 to 4%. So we're missing huge opportunity here. And that's actually part of why we're hosting these conversations, to exposit these areas of opportunity for all of us. And also we're speaking into some of what Consuli is working on, right? Trying to make it possible for individuals, direct to consumers, to activate here. So lots of opportunity. I will pass the torch back to you, Christine, with a very big thanks to our panel.
And I want to thank our guest speakers, Pradipta and Tatyana. Thank you for coming in and really sharing your perspectives. I think having this cross-disciplinary kind of conversation is phenomenal. And thank you to our co-mods for joining us and your insights as well. And Elizabeth for your for hosting this conversation, and all of you just really for these insights. We hope that these conversations give you a clearer understanding of the topics that we're discussing and how AI and emerging technologies can address some of the funding challenges in clinical trials today. And hope that you got some ideas that you can maybe implement some of these innovations into your own work. In closing, we invite you to engage with us further. We invite you to join the OBQ LinkedIn group to stay up to date on events and interact with each other there. We'll be sharing some links if Tatyana gets them to us in that group for you as well. If you have any suggestions for topics or speakers, or you're interested in joining us as a guest speaker, please reach out to Maria. And to connect with any of our speakers, moderators, co-moderators, the hosts, please follow them and connect on LinkedIn. Additionally, we encourage individuals to explore membership with our sponsor, Consuli, and Maria will share a link to that. And to consider becoming a co-sponsor of this One Burning Question Dialogue series, reach out to Maria as well. We appreciate your participation and look forward to future conversations. Your insights and engagement make our dialogues better and more impactful. So for all of these actions, the necessary links and contact information will be conveniently available to you in the comments section of our event posts. And we will see you next time. Our next OBQ clinical trials event is set to take place next month on Thursday, April 17th. And be sure to join our One Burning Question LinkedIn group for more information and our upcoming events. And we will see you all next time. Thank you again, all of you. I think this was a great conversation. Bye, guys.